Welcome everyone. Welcome to Membership Voice. I'm Kerry O'Shea, the coordinator of Voice and the host for this evening's webinar. I want to also acknowledge the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation, who are the traditional custodians of the land on which I'm hosting tonight's webinar. I acknowledge the strength of their continuing culture and offer my respects to elders past, present and emerging. Okay, at this stage, I'm going to introduce Dave, building a vibrant and successful Rotary Club, presented by Dave Harmon. Over to you, please, Dave.
Hero, thank you so much and welcome everyone. And it's a pleasure to be here tonight just to share the story of Ballina Richmond's membership growth over the past couple of years. I'm certainly not here to talk up our club. It's more I'm really interested in sharing our story and sharing with fellow Rotarians just how we did manage to build our membership. So I sort of, firstly, I'd like to say, I'll ask, why is membership important? Well, I believe that membership can be seen as a barometer of your relevance and your engagement in your local community. So I believe your membership base should reflect the town or the city you live in. Also, I'd like to maybe pose another question or two to think about during this presentation, and that is, what's your point of difference in your town or city with relation to other community organisations in your town? And also, what profile do you have? Does your broader community recognise or know what your club does in the town? So when we look at membership, I was a little bit concerned when I just saw some statistics only this week that in Zone 8 we have 165 clubs that have 10 or less members. And that's concerning, but what's more concerning maybe to me is our district membership chair is that our district 9640 has 7 clubs that have 10 or less members. So when a club gets to that stage where you've got a diminishing membership, it becomes very hard to build your club from that membership base. You have reduced capacity, less relevance, and reduced capacity means it's harder to attract new members. So you get caught in this cycle. So Ballina Richmond, back some 3 years ago, our club was concerned that we had an average aged cohort of over 65, and we had a membership of about 31, but we had an ageing membership. And we were concerned where our club might be in 5 and 10 years' time. So just for our viewers that may be not aware of where 9640 is, we cover the southern end of the Gold Coast and northern New South Wales and west of Goondiwindi, which is about a 6-hour drive from the Gold Coast west. So it's a fair way west. So it is a pretty big area. Last year, when I was looking at membership and how clubs were growing in our Rotary district, I spoke to 6 of the clubs in our district that had what I would call substantial growth. And I asked each of the presidents what they put their growth down to. And it was interesting to see that there were quite a few similarities in that they all had relevant, engaging community service projects that engaged both their community and their club members. But more than that, they were able to publicise through multimedia their success and what they do in the community. For example, when you look at Hope Island up the top that had, at the time, plus 11 members last year, all those 11 members come from their Facebook and web page. So they had 11 members join last year just from their web page and Facebook page. So what I'm sort of the message I'm going to try and get across tonight is the importance of community-based service projects. And also like to maybe think about, when I think about membership, I just don't think about numbers. What I try and think about is sustainability. Like my club in particular, an aging membership, where would we be in 5 years' time? So how are we going to be sustainable? We need regrowth and we need renewal. So we need to be thinking about, even though we might have a good membership of, say, 30 members, we need to be still looking at growing our club to make it sustainable. recently, Rotary International did a survey and asked members what they wanted from their Rotary clubs. And it's interesting that it come up that community service was number one. I know from a personal viewpoint, that's why my wife Robin and I joined Rotary, was to work in our community to make our town a better place, to get involved. Sure, fellowship and friendship are very important. Personal development opportunities are important, number 2 and 3. But community service is the overwhelming reason most people join Rotary. So 3 years ago, as I mentioned, 3 members of our club come together and looked at where we'd like our club to be into the future in 5 to 10 years' time. And tonight I have our membership chair from the past 2 years, Cole Lee, and our club service director, Jodie Shelley. They were the 2 people that work with me on this, and they're on this webinar tonight. So if anyone has any questions for them later on, feel free to ask them. But what we looked at is what we wanted to make our club's core business. And when we looked at what we wanted to do, we first of all thought we wanted to get community projects that really engaged our community, but also our members, and would make a difference. But then we also wanted to be able to publicise it, share our story with our community through print media, radio, Facebook, Instagram, and so on, and build that profile. But further than that, we agreed that we determined that we'd allocate 80% of our efforts into these core business principles. So we come up with a strategy and a plan, and then we started moving forward. So we look at where we were last year, just this July just finished. Many of you would be aware that our district experienced substantial growth. We had a district membership increase of 169 members. And our Rotary Club had a similar growth pattern in that we grew from, in a period of 2 years, from 31 to 33 members up to 76. So we had substantial gain. But it's interesting, when I mentioned to you what our main project has been for the past couple of years, our district experienced the major growth between our baton relay, which went from February to May. That's when we experienced the most growth in our district. And it was interesting also that 62% of members that joined in that time were actually women. So we look at our Ballina and Richmond Rotary Club growth over the past 2 years, and you can see that essentially organically we grew to 53 members in June this year, and then we started a satellite club, and Cole Lee, our membership chair, was instrumental in getting that started. And that's in a gated community, a retirement village, where we've set up the Ballina Lifestyle Satellite Club. So that gave us a membership of 76 members in June this year. It's interesting to note that that actually put us as the 6th biggest Rotary Club, equals 6th in Australia. When you consider Ballina only has a population of 10 to 15,000 people, that's quite a substantial outcome. We experienced the most growth of any Rotary Club in Australia. And I'm trying not to sort of spruik about this. What I'm leading to as we go into this is how we did it. So back 3 years ago, our club determined that domestic violence would become our main community project. So we sat down and worked out how we would do this. We determined that we would be an advocate to raise awareness, an advocacy campaign to raise awareness of domestic violence. We also determined that we would provide funding and support for an education program in the schools. And we also would help fund the local women's and children's refuge, and also provide financial support for women and children escaping domestic violence. So our Rotary Club closes the main street of Ballina, River Street in Ballina. We close that street. On our last walk, we had over 800 participants walk down the main street of Ballina saying no to domestic violence. That's a very powerful message. If you want to look at it as a selfish outcome, is that it really raised our club's profile. The media coverage we got from that, and we still get by being associated with domestic violence, is huge. We have partnerships with police, health, other service agencies in town, council, education, and we also have attracted corporate members from some of those organisations to be members of our club. The education program we help fund in the schools, and my wife is the actual coordinator for the Northern Rivers area in coordinating Love Bites. This year, before COVID hit us in the Northern Rivers and put us into lockdown, we were helping deliver into 10 high schools in the Northern Rivers. And this education program is about respectful relationships. This artwork is from Ballina Coast High School that the students do as part of the Love Bites education program. Now, I'm just going to go a little bit sideways here just to push the point of being ahead of the game. When we went into lockdown last year in February, all the social service agencies in town, the meal centres, St Vincent de Paul, Salvation Army and so on, all went into lockdown and people were in crisis. Our Rotary Club partnered with the restaurant in town, the Cove Restaurant, and in a matter of 6 weeks, we helped deliver 2,000 meals and help raise $16,000 to provide finance to pay for those meals to people in need. And part of the motivation we got involved with this was the amount of women and children that were in crisis accommodation in lockdown for a month with no support. So our club took the initiative and got this going. Again, this really raised our profile. We were on the news, on TV, we were on radio, in the national papers. Again, it just raised our profile about being connected with community. Here we are in August 2021, and in New South Wales, we're in lockdown again. Colin Jody in the green shirts there, they're members of a committee that look after the meal centre, the hot meal centre in Ballina. Cherry Street Bowling Club come on board and have been supporting the meal centre. They are now, since we've been in lockdown, providing meals every day for free to the Ballina community, to those in need. So again, being ahead of the game, responding and providing for those in need in our community. So moving back onto our domestic violence campaign or project, we had our baton relay earlier this year, and it went our 100 Years of Rotary in Australia baton relay, and it went from February to May. So we had 100 days of a baton relay through southern Queensland and northern New South Wales. My wife and I went and met with our immediate past governor, Andy Rajapaksa, and asked Andy if there was any way the district could look at further supporting our domestic violence advocacy campaign. Andy, in his wisdom, come up with the idea of linking domestic violence to our 100 Years of Rotary baton relay. What that did was we had 58 clubs in our district walking through our streets, down our footpaths with our purple shirts on and our placards and banners, celebrating 100 years of Rotary, but also saying no to domestic violence. And when I go back and share that statistic with you, with the major growth we had last Rotary year, being between February and May, that was the time that we were doing our baton relay with the cause. And it's not a fluke that we had 60% of those new members that joined Rotary were women. My wife and I participated in many of these walks in our towns, and we personally know of quite a few people that come up and joined our walk, asked us what we were doing, and then went along to a local Rotary club and joined. So the power of having a community project, a cause that connects with your members, but also connects with community is very, very powerful. And you can see just with some of these photos walking down the streets, you can imagine just how powerful this message was. This is the 100 Years of Rotary and the Rotary Says No to Domestic Violence walk in Ballina. We had about 100, a bit over 100 people walk on that day. Again, very powerful message, fully supported by all the local service agencies, education, police, health, and so on. The media coverage we received from the baton relay with the cause was unprecedented. We had, just in Ballina alone, we had over 30 newspaper articles in a matter of, in that 12 months period. It was amazing. And we didn't have to go chasing the stories. The media were after us. They wanted to know the story. They wanted to know why we were stepping up and making a stance against domestic violence. So again, it really raised our profile and attracted members to our club. So I say to you that to grow and survive, our clubs need to ensure our members get value for the time they're prepared to give. So I now say to you, what is your club's core business? What can your club offer a potential member? What service, activity or activities are you passionate about? Passionate volunteers are your club's most valuable asset. This young lady you see in this slide here is a member of our club. She is a victim of domestic violence. My wife and I got to know her at a restaurant one night, talked about Rotary. Over several months, she shared her story about domestic violence, and she's now an active member of our club. She's helped bring our age demographic down. Tajinda's just asking my wife, she's about 30.
She's 26.
26, TJ. So it helps bring our average age down. So, yeah, sorry, my wife's just sharing with me. She's not only a survivor of domestic violence, but she's only this week become an Australian citizen. So Rotary has helped change TJ's life. And if it wasn't for her making the connection, or, you know, a lot of the things that's happened to her now in the last couple of years wouldn't have happened. Rotary's helped change her life for the better. So by getting out in the community, a great cause, a campaign, an advocacy campaign, it has attracted members to our club. So what makes your club relevant? I know what makes our club relevant. We have community service projects and causes that connect with community, connect with our members. So our club is very much, we don't make it, I can't say we make it our number one priority, but local community projects are right up there. That's something we're really passionate about. We also, like most clubs, support all the youth programs. As part of the relationship we've built with Ballina Coast High School, with our domestic violence campaign, that relationship built further, and we now have an Interact club at that school that only started earlier this year, and our youth programs now are connected with that school. Of course, our club, like most, are connected with our international causes. We do support the Rotary Foundation, and we are looking at projects that we can do to help care for the environment. But essentially, I keep coming back to the same mantra, is that what's really helped us, our club, grow its membership is that we have increased our relevance in our town and our platform. So it's not just domestic violence that we are involved with. If you look at this wheel here, we have quite a few different projects and causes we are involved with. We have golf days and bowls days, charity luncheons. We have a duck race. We have volunteer in aged care. We have our youth programs. We support the Women and Children's Refuge. We have breakfast club 2 days a week at the local primary school. So we have quite a few different projects that we're working with. So that's a very quick presentation there. I've gone through that pretty quickly, and I'm now going to open it up to questions. But just before I do, what I'd say to you is that on a personal note, I find Rotary is an enabler. It enables average people to do great things. It provides you with a platform and support to get out there in the community and engage with community and do things that normally you would not be able to do. It enables you to do that. And when people are in need, who is it that steps up? And I know on a local level, our club are the ones that often step up and will help. So, Kiro, I can probably come back to you, buddy, and if we want to open up for questions.
Thanks, Dave. If you could just close your presentation, mate. Yeah, that'd be great. We do have some questions. We do have some questions for you. I had a couple sent in during the week. Dave, I was talking to President Shaker the other night as part of our preparations for the zone conference, and he was very, very proud of the fact that our Rotary International Board has pretty much achieved gender parity. 9 out of 17 members are women. And you mentioned a number of women members that Ballina or Richmond has recruited. How are you going about developing those new women members as leaders in Rotary?
It's really interesting. I'm just trying to think about it. I don't sort of really have a CEO gender indifference. It's just the way my brain works. I've always found that I just don't see a difference between the sex when I'm working with them, because I suppose I've worked with females most of my life. So it's really interesting. In our club, we do have a 50-50 male-female mix, and our board is made up 50-50. Our directors, it's business as usual for us, because it's just normal, I suppose, is the easiest way of answering that. And there's really no issue at all.
Fair enough. Just had a comment in the chat line about the big issue of the time. That's obviously affecting New South Wales pretty badly. COVID-19. COVID-19's been making life difficult for us since the beginning of last year, since early last year. But it's also offered Rotary clubs a challenge. And Ballina and Richmond seems to be very good at picking up relevant challenges. How has COVID affected, you mentioned the meals, but how has it affected Ballina and Richmond, and how else has your Rotary club responded?
Thanks, Kiro. I think, it's just one of those classic cliches. When the going gets tough, the tough get going. When you have a challenge, I just see it as an opportunity. When things are against you, it creates opportunities. And we certainly, when COVID first hit us last year, we did see opportunities there. We were straight onto Zoom when COVID hit last year within the first couple of weeks. And even though we have an age cohort of members, they all adapted to Zoom. We had our computer guru in our club did up a how-to on Zoom and sent that out to everyone. So we adapted, but certainly even currently with our COVID lockdown in New South Wales, we're still connecting. I know our president has rang all our members in the past week. We ring up, we talk. We have a welfare officer that is covering people that are ill and need help. And in our last COVID lockdown, we were delivering groceries to people. We have a monthly segment on the local radio station where we put that out and on an ad every day that if you need groceries delivered, you need medical supplies picked up, our members were doing that. So it's just trying to be ahead of the game, not just reacting, but more to sort of, be up there and think ahead.
Do you find that that's part of your success, though, like getting ahead of the game rather than reacting to things, that's one of the things that gives people a very positive impression of your club?
Oh, look, very much so. I think, you don't want to be dragged along trying to do something. We do try and be ahead of the game. And while we've been very successful in doing fundraisers and that, like a lot of other clubs do, I think what's made a difference to our club in the past several years is that we're funding our own campaigns and projects. We're not raising money and giving it away to other organisations to make themselves look good. We're actually doing our own projects, raising money, building profile, and as I say, trying to be ahead of the game.
Yeah, thanks, Dave. Mark Huddleston, my friend Mark Huddleston, membership guru who's well known to lots of people in Rotary, has offered an opinion that I think is very relevant, and that is that he's spoken of the importance of clubs adapting to the needs of members rather than making a new member fit a predetermined sort of slot. How does Ballina on Richmond do that? I mean, my guess is you obviously do, but how do you do it?
Something for everyone.
Yes, I think, that's a very valid question, because domestic violence isn't for everyone as a project. I would say in our club we probably have over 80% support for that project, but it's not for everyone, and I understand that. So I think it's important that you have a very broad cross section of projects. Don't just limit yourself to a couple, because something for everyone. I mean, I don't do breakfast club at the primary school, but that's for some of our members, that's the highlight of the week for them, serving breakfast to primary school kids. So there is something for everyone, but that keeps your club service director very busy and your board coming up with projects that connect. We do quite a few trade-based projects where we put a cafe into an aged care facility. So we're out there. We do rorks where we recycle, reuse. So my wife's just showing me something. Sorry. Literacy, numeracy in the schools. So there's something there for everyone.
Aren't our partners marvellous people? Dave, I want to talk about, now I don't want to give past District Governor Andy a big head, but I've got to mention him at this stage because pretty impressive stuff there. In his article in Rotary on the Move this month, Andy emphasised the importance of good leadership. What part has good leadership played in the development of your club, and how do you see that happening?
Yeah, that wasn't to Andy, that was to me.
That was to you. No,
oh, sorry.
That was to you. Yeah, this is to you about your club. I was just citing Andy's Andy's article. Yeah.
Yeah. Look, Andy has been a fantastic mentor to me on a personal note, but really my leadership style, I'm very passionate. I'm passionate, and I do have drive. And sometimes I might be a bit overbearing because I just want to get things done, and it's the passion, but very much you need good people around you, and I have some fantastic people around me that are just as passionate and even give more time than I do. So I think on a club level, certainly without having those core people around me to support me and with the ideas and passion, we wouldn't have achieved what we have. It certainly was a team effort. And it is fair to say that growing a club isn't for everyone. There's members in clubs that like things the way they are, and just like meeting for dinner and so on. But I was very much thinking of the future of our club and where we'd like to be in 5 and 10 years' time. So that was the drive. And I think you just got to take people along with you, try and encourage them, give them support, and lead from the front.
Fantastic. Thanks, Dave. Picking up on that point about leadership, and thank you for explaining that. One of the things that bedevils Rotary clubs, and I suppose districts too, is the issue of continuity of direction, continuity of good leadership, consistent direction. What's Ballina on Richmond doing to ensure that?
I'd love to say that we have a great succession plan, but I can't. We do have a president-elect at the moment for our club, but you would think with a basic club membership of 53 that we'd be able to have executives lining up, but we don't. It's still a struggle for us. I'm not sure. I struggle with it myself because sometimes you just got to twist someone's arm to try and get them to take the position. Our current president, Cole Lee, who's a charter member of our club, this is his 3rd time as president, and he stepped up. Essentially, he didn't want to see all this good work go to waste, and he thought he was prepared to step up and do it again, but that's not a good thing. So, yeah, our club's like many others, we struggle.
Gotcha. At this stage, I'm going to welcome our membership, our Rotary Membership Coordinator for Zone 8, Adrian Roach, who's with us tonight, a great supporter of Membership Voice, and thank you for doing that, Adrian. But Adrian has a question for you about the benefits of being so big. So, Adrian, if you could put your mic back on, your microphone on, please, and pose your question to Dave.
Thanks, Kero. Dave, what a great story. I've really enjoyed your story tonight. And I was just thinking, what are the benefits of having the larger number of club members, having 57, did you say you had?
We've got 76, including the satellite club.
Wow, that's a great number. So I guess you've got always got some volunteers for everything you're doing. Is that correct?
Look, very much so. It's interesting, having a growing membership does bring its problems. For example, dinner meetings, getting a venue that can handle those numbers, and trying to keep all those members busy with projects. But yes, Adrian, it's certainly a great benefit to have so many members. It does enable you to take on more projects and bigger projects. So the idea of the satellite club, they're very, very much a support mechanism for us. So when we have a project on, something that we need help with, that they're the first ones to line up and help. But they do work on their own, and they have their own projects and causes that they do as well.
Very good. Just something to add to, you mentioned it was difficult to get the next president, etc. Something that my club does is we get our president like 18 months out, so they've got plenty of time to train and be mentored by the next incoming president. Like, it's not a big drama because it's not 6 months away, it's 18 months away. So that might be something too, get someone who might not be able to do it soon but could possibly commit to doing it down the track. That seems to have worked for us over the last 10 years.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Thank you, Adrian and Dave. And at this stage, over to David McPherson, the District Governor nominee, and I can't remember the district, Dave. So when you switch your mic on to ask a question, you might enlighten me on that one, please.
Okay, thanks, Kero. Yeah, District Governor-elect nowadays, but I'm not trying to correct anybody. But anyway, just wanting to know what your strategy was to bring people along to grow your club and to adopt that domestic violence focus that you mentioned.
Yes, David. Initially, when we adopted the domestic violence advocacy campaign and project, we didn't think it'd have the reach that it did and have the interest that it did. But certainly, I think it'd be fair to say that probably half of the new members that joined our club actually contacted us. We didn't have to go looking for them. They contacted us and said, we like what you're doing. Can we come along to a meeting and have a listen? So yeah, our president-elect, for example, heard an interview on the radio and contacted our club the next day and just said, I love what you're doing. When's your next meeting? Can I come along? So I think just having a core group that we're all on the same page while we were out there working on the project, but also selling our story. And I think selling the story was a huge part of it. We have a lady in our club that just is fantastic at doing social media and print media. So just I think all the stars aligned, I think, David.
Fantastic. Thank you, Dave and David. At this stage, I'd welcome our Rotary International Director, Jessie Harmon, to the meeting. And Jessie would like to say something.
Thank you. I've got a question, but I know Tony Hayward's been bursting to ask one as well. Maybe I could go first and then Tony.
You go first, Jessie. You've got the floor.
Come in after me. David, you mentioned the RI research, we joined to give back. But another finding from the same research year after year is that Rotarians who connect with Rotary beyond the club enjoy Rotary more, stay longer, are better ambassadors for the brand. So what are you doing in the club to connect your members with Rotary beyond the club?
Yes, Jessie, and it's lovely to see you here. I must admit, when I heard you're on, I thought, the pressure's on. I better perform tonight.
I wouldn't get carried away, Dave. It's just me.
Look, it's a really interesting comment because I'm a classic. I think I'm a classic Rotarian in that Robin and I have been in Rotary for 8 years, and really until I met our immediate past District Governor Andy, I really wasn't that interested in anything Rotary outside my club. And I think that's probably most Rotarians. They're not really that interested on district, causes and things going on. Look, I think it's important, certainly from my viewpoint, to share the stories from district and Rotary International, what's going on. I know in our club, our foundation chair, once a month, we have him do a presentation. But also, I think it's important that we also include some of the other district chairs like membership chair and so on, where we have just Zoom webinars and so on, trying to encourage just your average Rotarian to have a listen. So it's a hard one, Jessie. It's a hard one to connect Rotarians outside their club. Yeah, but we are trying. Yeah.
Thank you, Jessie and Dave. Tony, do you have a question?
Yeah. Thanks, Kero, and thanks, Dave, for the update. I'm on the line here from Wellington, here in New Zealand. So, very, very interesting presentation, and I commend you for your focus and your relentless effort in growing Rotary, and that's what we're all here for. I think there's enormous benefits in having a nice sized club like that and bringing people on, and the trick is to keep that member engagement. That's the trick now, is to hang on to them. And as I know Jessie pushes at the moment, that we must become member centric. Everything has to be around membership. one of the key things I've just picked up on is this community-based service project, and I really like what you've done. If you were giving some advice to the audience tonight, how do Rotary clubs really connect with the community and understand the needs that are in communities? What's the mechanism, or what would your advice be? Because I hear a lot in the Rotary world that we're not that connected. So how do we become connected? And I'd welcome your input.
Thanks, Tony. Look, great question. And it's not easy. My wife and I, when we first decided that we wanted to look at domestic violence as a club project for 5 to 10 years cycle, we spent about 6 months going around, ringing, making appointments to see people, finding out who we should see in health, in education, and so on, the different service agencies, just making the contacts. And when we made the contacts and sat with them, then we would ask the question, what do you think Rotary could do for you? This is Rotary, this is what we're about, this is how we work. And it was amazing. It took about 6 months, but after that, we did come up with a bit of a plan, and we made contacts, and then we got some direction. And these people that we met from the certain agencies give us advice and said, look, this is how I think what you could do. And from that gave us a start in 2019. And from 2019 to now, we've just been improving and expanding our reach each year. So I think it's hard at the start, but it's really funny, or not funny, but it's interesting now in Ballina, for example. If you ask anyone around town about domestic violence, I actually end up getting calls from victims, from agencies asking, what do you reckon, Dave? Could Rotary do this, or can you help out here? They're looking to us as one of the main players now in domestic violence in our town. So I think whether it's domestic violence, it could be homelessness, it could be mental health. There's so many great causes out there. I think it's just a matter of putting it to your club like we did and see if the support's there, and sell it to your members. And if the support's there, the passion's there, well, then it's not hard. It might take a while to get it started, but yeah. Dave,
you've mentioned some issues that are confronting Ballina and Richmond, including I think the issue that most of us have to deal with, which is average age and that sort of thing. But what do you see as the biggest challenges facing Ballina and Richmond going forward?
It's really interesting. I think I need to share this because retaining our members that we've just brought in, that's a hard one, because it's one thing, me personally, I actually find it not that hard to build a club. I think bringing them to clubs, the easy bit, retaining them, keeping them engaged is the hard bit. And you can't do that on your own. It's like it takes a village to raise a family. It takes a club to make a member and keep a member. And I've found myself since I've moved sideways from president, our new president's having this trouble now, is how do I keep all these new members engaged? I can't do it on my own. We need other members to step up and support. And that's not easy. So that's a big challenge for us. It's a challenge for me because we don't want to see that terrible statistic where we see so many members leave in the first 2 years.
Yes. It certainly is a test. It certainly is a test. And with so many new members, the test is before you. Yeah. I would at this stage just like to remind everyone, Adrian has put a reminder in the chat, but I'll give voice to that our Zone 8 virtual conference is coming up. Looks like a top value event. It's virtual, means that you can attend from anywhere, come and go as you like, and it won't cost you an arm and a leg. So the link is there in the chat. So if you have the opportunity, you have the opportunity to be there. So please consider it if you haven't already registered. Dave, looking at a term as president, they're always usually a wonderful opportunity to do things. But what were your biggest learnings from your time as president? What would you like to share?
Biggest learnings. Look, I probably managing people, like just learning how all the dynamics of the different personalities, and certainly as the club grew. While, like I said, not everyone was in favour of the club growth, trying to, work with that, because I was so passionate about growing the club, but other people don't share that passion. So just like probably trying to learn not to take it personally, because it's not a job, even though sometimes it seems like it's a job. You've got to try not to take it personally, and everyone's different. But I love my term as president. I'd had 2 years in the chair. And I probably, in all honesty, if I went for 3, I know you're not supposed to, but if I did, I still would have had the passion, because the job's not done. Our current president is working really hard to follow through with the domestic violence. He shares the passion. So an interesting thing, just if I could share, what we're finding with our club is that, again, we're getting other agencies just wanting to work more closely with us. Only recently, New South Wales Police have joined with our club, and we're making umbrellas that have the Rotary logo on them, and also New South Wales Police, with Say No to Domestic Violence on them. So that's not something that would normally happen, and that's now going into Queensland as well. So, I mean, agencies like police are wanting to be involved with our campaign. So that's a great thing. And I would love any club out there, any district that would look at wanting to take this cause on board. I'm more than happy to share any of my resources, lessons. Happy to share anything with clubs out there.
Thanks, Dave. I think we seem to have exhausted the question list at the moment, but there is one question that I like to ask all great Rotarians, and I think you've qualified for that description. Dave Harmon, why are you in Rotary?
Why am I in Rotary? I'm in Rotary to make a difference in my community, in my local community. That's where my heart is. That's why I joined Rotary. The extras that I've got along the way in district, and the people I've met, friendships I've made, things I've learnt are just an add-on. But yeah, community is what drew me to Rotary. And as I said before, I see it as an enabler. It enables me to do things that I normally wouldn't be able to do. So yeah, and I thank Rotary for that.
Fantastic. After we've had a great presentation and a wonderful Q&A. Thank you, David, and good night, everyone.